encourage your soul, enlighten your mind, and empower your faith. This is the Light Network. Hello and welcome to Preachers in Training, the podcast on which we discuss all things preaching and ministry. My name is Robert Hatfield, and we're coming to you from the exhibit hall floor of Polishing the Pulpits of Vierville, Tennessee. Get to sit down with all of our favorite people, including Forest Antemesaris. Welcome back,
Thank
Forest.
you. Hey, appreciate that. Glad to be here.
So we miss you.
I miss you. I miss you guys. I miss the sound of my own voice on Spotify.
Through the headphones.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of God Magnified, then you know they haven't released in a while.
Right.
And there's good reason for that. In fact, there may be a couple of reasons for that.
Yes.
And they're running around at your house right now, or wherever they are. Maybe they're here. I don't know.
That's what I heard. I heard that it's all my fault and my children's fault.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying maybe that's what's going on. You have a lot going on in life. And Hiram is such a diva. It's so hard to work with him.
Yeah.
That you finally were like, I forget it.
I just can't do it. I can't do it anymore. Too much.
Good.
Massage. I can only massage my schedule so much. You know what I mean? I can only move so many things around.
Hiram's not here to defend himself, so we can say whatever we want.
Maybe this will make a Q&A session on the Holy Brief. They'll be like, hey.
I hope so.
Yeah. Is it a sin to talk about people behind their back?
When are you and Forrest going to get back together
That
again?
would be a good question.
Okay.
Submit that. I know you guys, somebody out there in the world that's watching has to submit that question.
You guys do it.
They don't do any of their own questions.
Hiram knows my own email address.
Yeah, you get to submit the question.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, cool. Today, how's everything going? By the way, I meant to say you're one of the ministers of the Orange Street Church of Christ in Auburndale, Florida, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Everything's going out there.
Going great. Yeah, we're in Auburndale, Florida, about halfway between Tampa and Orlando. That's what I usually tell people.
Good, yeah.
Lakeland's kind of like the closest big-ish city.
Yeah, which is where the Florida School of Preaching is.
Yes, Florida School of Preaching, shout out. They're right there in Lakeland.
Yeah, we're booth buddies. I don't know.
Yeah, they're right across
on
the
video.
street there.
You can see us there.
Oh,
and there. The director, Brian Kenyon, giving us a wave.
Perfect. There they are. Shout out.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And, it's great living in Florida. I would say Florida is not the Bible Belt.
Okay.
A lot of people think it is, but it's not.
No.
My stat that I always... And now the math could be wrong because I did the math myself, and everybody knows I'm not good at math.
Well, that's why we're ministers.
But I think Florida, if you look at the population, it has the same per capita, has the same members of the church as Wyoming.
Really?
Yes.
Of Wyoming?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
No offense to Wyoming.
Sure.
I love Wyoming.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of people I think kind of view Florida as sort of like Bible Belt South, and it's not. It's not really. It's kind of a different context, different situation. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So we got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do.
That's right. A lot of work to do, a lot of opportunities. But I love it down there.
And you also serve the Florida School of Preaching as one of the instructors, is that right?
Yes, that's true.
Good.
That's true.
Awesome.
I don't teach every semester.
Yeah.
Because of the kids and aforementioned, things.
The aforementioned regrets.
But I think every other semester, I think they have me teaching. Good. So glad to do that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for carving out some time in your busy PTP for Preachers in Training. I always love sitting down with you.
Yeah.
Anytime you're ready to come back to Light Network, just let us know.
Okay, cool.
You can do your own Q&A show that rivals Hiram's if you want.
That would be awesome.
Okay.
I'm going to do an A and Q show. You submit to me an answer.
It's like Jeopardy.
And I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Yeah. We'll work on that. We're going to workshop that.
That could be
on
fun.
the lookout.
Okay. All right.
A&Q.
Coming soon to a lightnetwork.tv near you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today you're giving answers as well. You're going to help us understand some practical ways to reach those who doubt. Give people just maybe if they're not familiar with you, just if you don't mind, like the nickel version of your background a little bit.
Sure.
What I'm getting at is why you're uniquely suited to help us with this topic.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I would say. Well, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't grow up believing in God. Grew up secular household is the way I usually describe it. Parents don't believe in God. No prayers before meals. Didn't read the Bible. Nothing like that. Not to incriminate my parents. They did the best they could. I don't think they really knew any better. And so kind of atheism was kind of my default. Learned, evolution in school. Never had any reason to question it. That's just kind of the way I lived my life. And then going into my senior year in high school, after being invited to a congregation of the Lord's Church, Orange Street, actually.
Really?
Where I'm preaching now, yeah.
Wow, okay.
And study with a deacon there, Chad Tagto, shout out. He won't listen to this probably, but
he's not listening.
God bless him. I studied with him for about a year. We studied together, and then ended up getting baptized, becoming a Christian. Never looked back.
Good.
So I definitely can, I guess, sympathize with those who have doubts about Christianity and or reject it, and kind of been there myself, know. And I think that, well, we'll get into some of that, more of that stuff, but that's sort of my background.
You kind of have a passion to reach out. I mean, I know you've done some stuff within the greater realm of, I don't know, I don't want to say apologetics to put you in a certain box, but anyway, just answering doubt and skepticism and things like that.
For sure. I do have a master's degree in apologetics, Christian apologetics.
There you go. Okay.
But, whatever that's worth. But,
it's worth as much money as you paid for it, man.
Exactly.
That's a lot.
Exactly.
No, I'm just kidding. It's worth a lot.
But, yeah. And part of it is just like I think about who I used to be. There's a lot of people out there like me,
Okay.
That's something that the church obviously should think about. And I think we do, honestly. We've got a lot of apologetic stuff. We've got groups that put out great content that are affiliated with the church. So I think we're doing a good job in that, and we're just all co-laborers toward that end.
Yeah.
But there's not every discussion we have with people evangelistically is going to be over, hey, you're in a denomination, or maybe you're just like you believe in the Bible and God, but you're not really there doctrinally. Sometimes it's these big doubts that sort of get in people's way and are hurdles for people.
Good.
Both in the church and out of the church, I would say, too.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. We don't need to approach this topic as though it's only to reach them,
right?
Quote unquote, and not us.
Yeah,
because
there's
room for questions. Word of God's not afraid of our questions. The truth will hold up. So
definitely
ask away. Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to get into some practical ways to reach those who doubt here in just a moment. I got a little commercial to read first. Is that okay? Yeah, a little commercial. And that is representing the Freed-Hardeman University Graduate School of Theology. Did you graduate from the Graduate School of Theology?
I did not.
Where did you get your master's degree?
Liberty University.
Liberty University. I thought you were a Freed person, too.
I did 2 semesters at Freed-Hardeman in the graduate program.
That's what I'm thinking
working
about.
toward an MDiv.
Yeah.
And then I
kind of switched gears a little.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. It's all good. Well, let me just tell you something. Those of you who are listening, watching this, I've seen firsthand how church leaders face challenges that go beyond sermons and Bible studies. People come to people like us with struggles that need more than just good advice. And that's why Freed-Hardeman University created, this is new, the Certificate in Counseling for Church Leaders. It's fully online, designed to help ministers and elders respond wisely to issues like grief, anxiety, and addiction. Did you hear that? Ministers and elders. They especially encourage ministry teams and elderships to consider going through this program together in cohorts because it builds shared skills and strengthens the entire ministry team. If you want to serve your congregation better and grow in practical skills that you can use immediately, check it out at fhu.edu/grad theology. That's fhu.edu/grad theology. Appreciate them supporting preachers in training. Appreciate Forest Antemesaris being with us today to talk about practical ways to reach those who doubt.
That was a great ad read. I'm thinking about.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to re-enroll.
Okay, good.
Yeah, get another degree.
See, it was effective.
It was good.
It was all in how I delivered it, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You're a pro. You're a pro. No doubt about that.
Where do we start, Forrest? I mean, for some of us, you're coming from a background of this, and folks, you got a friend group, a circle of people, even family members who are coming from this particular worldview. I guess is the best. I don't mean to say like those people. I don't mean
I
like
get
that.
What you're saying. Yeah.
Others of us, maybe we've never really interacted in those circles. In other words, I guess I'm trying to get at, we wouldn't really know where to begin, where to start. What do you suggest as we get started here?
Yeah, I would say the first thing to me, at least in my mind, is kind of the way we view those who doubt.
Okay,
because it can kind of be easy to do, kind of like a us versus them kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, they're one of those people.
Yeah. Or even kind of like, like unclean, stay away sort of deal.
Yeah. Or a stereotype like they're all Satan worshipers.
Yeah, or
if
like
they're doubters,
bad
then,
people, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And I do think that there's a passage in Jude. I think there's a textual invariant involved, but have mercy on those who doubt is like what the ESV says. I want to say that's Jude 22, chapter 1, of course. And I think that's probably talking about obviously brothers and sisters, but I feel like that applies to those who are on the outside as well. And that really should be our first goal. Is I'm not really trying to convince you of Like, this isn't like a debate team prep thing.
I want to win
right?
this.
Yeah, it's more of like, I'm worried about your soul. Like, I want you to be saved.
Yeah.
Like, I'm saved, and, you know, I want you to love Jesus, and I want you to have faith, and I want you, you know, not because, I want to win these points, or I want to prove that my position is the right position, or anything like that, right? So I think, if we're coming at it from the right place, I think that's a good starting point. It's just like, how do we view those who maybe do have doubts, you know? And not everybody who has a doubt is trying to undermine the faith or destroy the church or steal souls away from the Lord or something like that. It can be just a personal thing that they're struggling with, and they've never heard good answers, and maybe you're in the kingdom for such a time as this.
I have a hunch. I don't have any science to really back this up. Maybe there is some out there. That the majority of people who are doubting, maybe even who are atheists or at least agnostics or just like you say, I just don't really know. I've never really heard good arguments that have swayed me. I have a feeling that most of those people aren't like militant, you know, I'm trying to take down religious institutions.
Right.
So some of them may be a little hurt by religion.
Sure.
Some of them may just be kind of curious, and like you say, they have never heard compelling arguments from people.
Right.
Do you think that's true? I mean, in other words, so like like coworkers, neighbors, other parents on the kids' sports teams. You know, these are people that if we can start by building a good relationship, maybe we'll have an opportunity to at least shed a little light in those ways for them.
You know, I think in a very real way, that old cliche, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I mean, that's true. Like, as much as like...
There's a reason why it is a trite saying now.
1,000%. You know, like, it is definitely true. And so I think there's definitely a place for that. And even, you know, like for me, I used to always say I don't believe in God because I've never heard a good reason to. And it's not like, you know, I was antagonistic toward people who believed in God, you know, for a little part of my life. But I wasn't going to go try to like interrupt a worship service or like, you know what I mean? Like, I wasn't going to like protest at the Capitol if they erected the 10 Amendments in some state building or something, you know? I kind of just was like, hey, I've never heard of a good reason to believe this. And then, you know, if somebody has an open heart, a soft heart, which usually happens through relationships and the providence of God and, you know, interaction with Christians, I would say, then when they hear answers, they're likely to follow through on that and maybe change their mind and change their convictions, you know.
Like what you mentioned a minute ago, that when you and Chad were studying together, it was over a period of like a year or so. Right?
Exactly.
So this isn't going to be like a Pentecost sermon.
And that's what I would say too. You know, people have, and it's very often that people don't just have like one doubt. Sometimes, you know, but oftentimes it's like, hey, I've got 3, 4, 5 different things that I'm really is sowing some doubt for me, that I feel like I have never had good answers for this.
What are some examples of that? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have some? I mean, is it like inspiration of Scripture? Is it stuff like that?
Yeah, you know, and it kind of depends from person to person. And that kind of leads me to the second thing I was going to say. So that's a perfect segue.
Good.
And that is, you want to ask questions.
Okay.
Right. I think sometimes when we're in these situations and we're dealing with people who are doubting, we kind of position it to where like, I'm here to give answers.
Okay.
Right. Like, you're coming to me and I'm kind of like the sage, and I'm gonna tell you what you need to know, you know. And there's nothing wrong with like being prepared. You need to be prepared and you should be, you know, knowledgeable of these things. But we need to ask questions, and that's where kind of like the number one question I usually get is like, you know, where do you start? Like, what's the one argument to tell somebody who doesn't believe in God or something like that? And I always say it totally depends on the person, right? My reasons for not believing in God might not be somebody else's reasons, aren't somebody else's reasons. So you really, like, as much as you can, ask clarifying questions, right? Like, what exactly is the issue and why? And, you know, even when they tell you, okay, what do you mean by that? You know, when did you start thinking this way? Just try to like really understand what exactly is going on, you know. But
which is what we do if we're having a Bible study with somebody who's coming from a religious background. We there's no cookie cutter magic silver bullet thing. You know, you need to understand where they're coming from so you know how to meet them where they are. But you know, some big ones I've come across is, you know, like, there's no way everything the Bible says that happened. You know, snakes can't talk. You know, there wasn't a big flood. Global flood, stuff like that. Sometimes it's, you know, it's more simple. Like, maybe they think that there's some contradiction in the Scriptures. You know, maybe they think that the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament seem like two different
deities or whatever it is.
Sure.
You know, there's a lot of things out there that get people thinking. And you kind of touched on this already, but a big thing is, you know, it's kind of a title like church hurt. You know, I think that the way I refer to it is poor emotional experiences or personal experiences with those professing faith, right? So once you have that, for a lot of people, it's really hard, especially if that happens when you're young, before you can kind of formulate, you know, make a separation between these people aren't God or these people aren't Jesus, you know, they're kind of combined in your mind. That can be very difficult, where, you know, how can Christianity be true if the people who believe it and follow it treat me like garbage or whatever it might be, you know? So I think that's a big thing for a lot of people, which goes back to how do we interact with them, how do we treat them, how do we talk to them, etc. And remember, like, we're trying to win the war, not just the battle, and we care about them as a person and care about their soul, not just wanting to be right.
I love what you're saying here, and that sort of leads me down a different thought as well. I think that it's kind of related, but sometimes I wonder, do people who aren't Christians look not only at the way that a Christian treats them, but also how Christians respond to social movements within our culture? In other words, like, if I make some blanket statement about the homosexual community, just as an example, and maybe I've got some bits of biblical truth in there, but I haven't tempered that with love and patience. You know, preach the word, be instant in season, exhort, with all long suffering and teaching, with patience and teaching. Okay, so if I'm sort of a little rough around the edges with something, and then I've got a friend over here or a coworker, let's say, and they're like, well, they're nice enough to me, but if that's how they feel about this whole group of people, do you think that impedes people's perception of us and therefore of Christianity?
I think it does happen. You know, we've got commands in the New Testament to let your speech always be seasoned with grace. Colossians 4, right? Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, you know. I think Jesus is controversial enough. He doesn't need our help.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, there are people like, hey, even if you speak the truth in love, there's people who are going to be offended and turned off by
Absolutely.
it. So be it. You know what I mean? Like, I love those people.
It's not about just trying to cater to any.
Exactly. So there's definitely a line to kind of toe where it's like, hey, I can speak the truth and I can do it in love, and I'm not being unnecessarily offensive.
That's a good way to put it.
In my mind, that's kind of the key. But I think that definitely happens. And it's incumbent upon us to, you know, be as seasoned with grace as we can and walk as wisely as we can, you know, to view them, you know, with mercy, wanting for them to be saved, and then to ask questions. I think that's like a huge thing right there, where you're really trying to understand what exactly is their doubt, you know. And I'll just give kind of an anecdote where, and this person hasn't become a Christian, at least not yet. I'm still hoping and praying that they will, but, you know, he's like, pretty much told me he could never be a Christian because he can't believe that there's a big white dude in the sky with a beard who like controls the world, right? And I'm like, what are you even? I don't believe that either. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know. Like, and I had like kind of this like conception, like medieval art of God, where it's like he's a guy in the beard and the guy in the sky with a beard. You know, so somebody might even just be totally off base, where their conception of Christianity is something that Christianity isn't even really at all, you know. So their doubt they're not really even doubting anything true to the faith. They're just kind of lumping the faith in with these cultural conceptions.
Michelangelo or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, hey, there's a point to clarify and to say, hey, God is spirit, you know what I mean? And go through all those different kinds of things. So, but if you never ask those questions, then you're never going to get there, you know? So I think sometimes we're kind of so quick on the draw and that we lose the opportunity to really have a dialogue and a conversation and see what exactly, you know, they're struggling with. Which kind of like piggybacking on that, there's no reason for you or me or anybody else to like be the answer guy. Other than Hiram, because that's his podcast. But like,
but even he isn't positioning himself that way.
Exactly. Right. No. And so my point really is that like if somebody has a question or a doubt, and you genuinely are like, hey, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's okay, right? So like some of this I think is a humility of your doubt. Even like, let me word it this way. my inability to answer your doubt isn't reflective of my faith.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not less of a Christian,
Yeah.
or I'm not whatever because I don't know how to answer your question.
Because I think we think, okay, if I'm encountering somebody and they're like, well, I just can't really believe that a snake talked at one point.
Right.
And you're like, well, I don't really know how to answer that.
Right.
And maybe you say, I haven't really dug into that very much. I think we think that we're giving them a foothold in the door.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I don't know, like somehow that's going to reverse our own faith,
Right.
or I
or
don't
make
know.
them never want to talk to us again.
Yeah.
In my
yeah.
experience, the opposite is true.
Okay.
Right? Because if we're not like posturing and being like, you know, like what? Like,
Yeah.
how,
So
you know,
just be humble.
being humble, just be real. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, hey, man, that's a good question. I never really thought about that. I mean, I
Right.
believe that, but,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I need to go read about this or whatever it is, you know. And I think they'll respect that because it's like, okay, you really are trying to get to the truth. You're not just trying to beat me up with it, you
That's
know.
good.
And that's something that when I studied with Chad, and we've had sessions at PTP, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
His approach, and I really am thankful to God for this, you know, his approach was, let's sit down and let's just let's just go together kind of on a journey to find the truth. And he even told me, you might change my mind. Right? So like he kind of had this openness and this honesty and this willingness. Now, like realistically, I probably wasn't going to do that because my position was ridiculous and he has the truth on his side. You know what I mean? So, but
that was more than just a tactic he was using too.
exactly, he
it
really
wasn't a
meant
bait
that.
and switch.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't like, hey, I'm the lecturer, you're the student, sit down and let me teach you something.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, where are you at? Like, what are you struggling with? Let's look at these things together. Let's look at what the Christian answer is to these things. And, you know, it's really advantageous.
Yeah. The kids are chanting.
The kids are chanting.
Chick-fil-A again.
Oh, Chick-fil-A.
They're chanting
Nice.
Chick-fil-A, and this has happened multiple times during my podcasts.
Okay, well, I'm glad I get to sit in on a Chick-fil-A
it's
episode.
good. This is why we put on the...
Yeah.
Dan Winkler calls our headphones the Mickey Mouse ears.
There you go.
That's why we put those on.
Not sponsored, by the way.
No,
Not sponsored
unaffiliated.
yet.
That's right. Come at us with the money. Let's talk. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, wow, here was Chad who was willing to sit down and talk with you. There are a lot of us, maybe, who, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to really reach that person.
Right.
You know, maybe we start running statistics in our head. Chances are, you know, they won't come to faith or whatever.
Right. Or what are the odds that like an atheist just walks into your church service?
There you go.
And because that was me. Like I was invited by
An
my
atheist
friend.
walks into a church building. It sounds like the beginning of a joke.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know. So, and the thing is, really, what I try to tell people is, I don't think every Christian has to be prepared to answer every person.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think, at the very least, you should know why you believe.
Yes.
And if you can just share that with somebody, I think a lot of times that's enough, right?
Yeah.
So, especially if I believe all Christians are brainwashed or all Christians just believe what their parents believed or whatever, and you say, no, you know what, this is why I believe.
Right.
And even if those things don't answer my specific questions and doubts, at least now I know there's Christians who've sat down and thought about this and can articulate their why and their reasoning.
Yeah.
And even if it's not convincing to me, I think it at least, if I'm honest, will soften me up a little bit.
Good.
You know what I mean? And make me more willing to hear more.
Yeah.
Which leads to, I know there's another thing I would say is like, hey, as much as you can, invite people to services.
Okay.
You know, and I know that that's kind of like a somewhat controversial thing. Like, I'm not saying inviting people to church is evangelism. I'm not saying whatever. But generally speaking, we preach the gospel in a public setting every single week.
Yeah.
In a building that we own most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we should take advantage of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like, hey, we're going to have a tent meeting. But instead of a tent, it's going to be a building, and it's going to be inside. You know what I mean?
Instead of sporadic, it's going to be scheduled and regimented.
Yeah. So like I understand, you know, the worship
Yeah.
service isn't for the outsider, all that different kind of stuff. I can sympathize with that.
Yeah.
But if you're on the fence or you have doubts, sometimes what like softens you or changes you isn't always like an intellectual academic conversation. Sometimes it's just like seeing Christianity played out.
Yeah.
Right. And each element of a worship service has a teaching component, right? Singing. Literally, the scriptures say, teaching and admonishing one another in song. The Lord's Supper, what are we doing? Proclaiming the Lord's death until he comes. Obviously, the preaching is obvious. The prayer, really. I mean, prayer is like theology and practice, really, right? We're talking to God. It shows you what you believe about God, how you approach God, all those different kinds of things.
You could argue giving's very similar.
Giving's very similar, especially, you know, if you're in a congregation that emphasizes, you know, I know different people say different things before the giving, but this idea of Jesus Christ, who was rich, became poor for our sakes. That's in the
Yeah.
context of giving, right? It's 2 Corinthians 8.
Yeah.
So I think all those things, they have a teaching element. And that was a big thing for me, you know, before I said, and the thing I try to bring up sometimes is I requested the study. It's not like they asked me if I wanted to study at the congregation. I requested the study because I've been visiting worship. I had questions. Why do y'all do this? Where does this come from? When you say this, what do you mean? You know what I mean? So that really softens your heart and opens the door. And if the power really is in the Word of God, that's kind of the easiest way to expose people to the Word of God.
Yeah.
Hey, come to a worship service. If they say no, they say no, right?
Yeah.
But hey, you've got some doubts. Don't let your doubts stand in the way of you. Just like come checking it out, you know. So I think that can be a very effective thing. I really do.
I love that. As preachers, we need to not only model this and these things that you've discussed with us here today in our lives, but also find ways to model that in that preaching. I mean, we want these people to come to our worship services, our Bible classes. Maybe that means that we're not always using the inside baseball kind of terminology.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, maybe that means we're kind of trying to avoid saying the sayings like, I know we all know this.
Right.
You know, sometimes I'm not consistent with this yet. I'm still kind of trying to develop the habit, but I'll say something like, if you're using the Pew Bible, this is page 473.
Right. Yeah, I love that.
Or whatever, you know, and that way you don't have to make them hunt in the table of contents.
Yeah, they're in the index trying to find
figure out where John chapter 4 is or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess we just need to be mindful of this, and I guess these are ways that we could even begin to model some of these things that you've mentioned as leaders in the church for those who listen to us.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and the church really is a like a place of resource. That's the way I view it. You know, and it's in a lot of ways, it's kind of like the greenhouse for you know, you sow the seed, and then, but you have got this supportive environment where, you know, people can see, and hopefully, you know, at your congregation, people with doubts are greeted warmly, and they can see the love that people have for each other. And a lot of times, if doubts are emotionally driven, sometimes the solution is emotionally, I'm not going to say driven, but emotionally attached, right? Or let's say, for example, I'm not a Christian because I was treated poorly by Christians. Sometimes being treated well by Christians can be somewhat of an antidote, you know what I mean? Where the kind of the worldview I had constructed about who Christians are can get shattered when I see, you know, true Christianity, and that can go a long way.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Wow. Boy, that time passes quickly. Appreciate what you've said to us today, and thank you for giving us some insight into all of this. And we need to be people who are curious, shall we say, considerate.
Right.
Just treat other people like people.
For sure.
Ask about their stories. Engage with them. That doesn't mean you're blurring any kind of doctrinal lines by figuring out where they are, or even being nice to them. Be nice to people.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing to do.
And I would say, too, you know, just kind of parting words, people have believed in Christianity, broadly speaking, for 2,000 years.
Okay.
Right? You know, so a lot of the questions that we have been answered in some way in the past, and you can find answers to them, right? So
Good point.
And you'd be surprised by like even like the most like specific weird doubt that somebody might have. If you do a search for that, you can find people who have faith in Christ who've answered those kinds of questions, even if you don't know what the answer is, right? So again, I think there's just, you know, for us, there's no reason to be afraid of doubts, other people's doubts. There's no reason to do anything other than, you know, confidently and prayerfully and graciously, the best of our ability, field them, help those people, pray for them. And, you know, we serve a God who thankfully answers our questions in one way or another, right? And certainly he's still in that business today. He's given us his word. He's given us his son. He's given us his church. We have a lot of resources at our disposal.
All things pertaining to life and godliness.
There you go.
Seemed like I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're ever around Tampa, Orlando, Lakeland, Auburndale.
Yeah, if you're ever in Auburndale.
If you're ever passing through.
Yeah.
Stop by on a Sunday or Wednesday and check them out, or you can look them up on Facebook and YouTube. You guys post your sermons and stuff over there, so that's pretty good too. You can get your Forest fix that way if you're missing him here on God Magnified.
That's right.
Thanks for being with us. Subscribe and like the podcast, and let's preach the word.